To Donald Trump's trade war now, and China has called on the United States to cancel all tariffs after Washington.
The tariffs, we've been watching the markets through the course of the last few hours. Donald Trump, it's being reported.
It comes as companies in China say they could be badly hit by the ongoing trade war with the US.
A cold wind of change is once again sweeping across the economic map of the world. The United States and China, two giants of the global economy, have entered a new phase of trade confrontation. This time, the stakes are so high that the consequences could shake the entire global market. 245% tariffs. It sounds like a declaration of war, but it is already a reality that Beijing now faces head-on. What is really behind these numbers? The American administration stated, "The ball is in China's court." This is not just a figure of speech. It is a signal that Washington is no longer willing to play by the old rules. The focus is on strategic sectors: precision components, semiconductors, mechanical engineering, steel, aluminum. But it doesn't stop there. Following that, new tariffs ranging from 145 to 150% are hitting clothing, footwear, textiles, and household appliances. Nearly the entire spectrum of Chinese exports is under fire. This is not merely a trade quarrel. It is a calculated strike at China's economic backbone. If in the past, the United States criticized China for unfair competition, now it has simply decided to slam the door. At the Canton Fair, a major international trade exhibition where billions of dollars in export contracts are traditionally signed, emptiness now prevails. 98% of the booths are Chinese, but there are only a handful of foreign buyers. What do we do if orders from the US stop coming? Asked exporter representatives on the ground. Panic? That doesn't even begin to describe it. According to leaked reports from think tanks, China could lose between $300 and $400 billion in export revenue over the next 2 years. By the year 2028, the figure could rise to $1 trillion. And if production begins to relocate en masse to other Southeast Asian countries, total long-term losses could reach $2 trillion. One question hangs in the air: can China withstand such a blow? And here we arrive at Beijing's biggest concern: unemployment. Official figures claim urban unemployment is below 5%, but alternative sources in social media paint a different picture. Especially among youth, footage of graduates crying in despair, unable to find work, has already gone viral. Millions of Chinese citizens are employed in export-oriented sectors. If factories shut down, street protests are not out of the question. But this is only the beginning of the chain reaction. Export crashes equals declining profits of state-owned enterprises, equals shortfalls in pension and social security funds. Cuts to pensions, healthcare, and education. Will the state be ready for this? Beijing, of course, does not plan to sit idly by. Its countermeasures, restrictions on exporting strategic components, blocking American companies in the Chinese market, pivoting toward markets in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. However, none of these steps can swiftly replace the American consumer market. High-margin goods, such as electronics and industrial technologies, are still heavily oriented toward the West. Replacing that demand will take not 1 year, not even 2, but much longer. Meanwhile, confidence reigns in the White House. They'll come to negotiate. They need our money. This is how Washington's position sounds. But let's not forget, the tariff increases on components from China are already being felt within the United States. Rising prices in electronic stores, logistical disruptions, increasing costs of clothing and toys. These topics are being mentioned more and more frequently on forums and social media. The American consumer will also pay the price. One of the most painful topics is aviation. China is the largest foreign customer of Boeing. A halt in deliveries or cancellation of contracts would hit American aerospace manufacturing, as well as the stock market. This raises the question, if both sides are incurring losses, what is the point of this war? Some analysts are calling it a new cold economic war. Not just a dispute over tariffs, but a battle for technological, logistical, and financial supremacy. This is especially true in strategic sectors: microelectronics, AI, rare earth elements, and defense industries. China may restrict exports of rare metals or prohibit American companies from operating on its territory. But this would immediately trigger risks of a global crisis: collapse of supply chains, inflationary spikes, a worldwide recession scenario. This whole situation is not a one-sided game. American companies, from tech giants to retailers, are deeply tied to Chinese manufacturing. A swift shift to other markets is impossible. Logistics, quality standards, and production capacity have been built over years. Moving supply chains to India, Vietnam, or Malaysia is not a matter of a single presidential order. Amid growing tensions, nationalism is rising. Phrases like "China can't survive without us" spark fury in Beijing. In response comes, "America still thinks it's the center of the world." On the streets, in newsrooms, and within the Chinese government, this is perceived as a challenge to national dignity. At the same time, despite the harsh rhetoric, the United States understands. Inflationary risks are real. Prices across the country have already started rising. On the horizon, new elections. And if prices surge for smartphones, clothing, and toys in American stores, it will deal a blow to the president's approval rating. Is there a way out? Theoretically, yes. Both sides state they are ready to negotiate. But the United States demands concessions from Beijing on intellectual property, market access, and technology. China, in response, says, "We are already complying with international rules." And while heads of state exchange statements, the whole world is holding its breath. Investors are frozen. International companies are revising their plans. Asia is watching Beijing's every move. Europe is thinking about diversification. If the trade war escalates into a global crisis, no one will be spared. What's next? At the Canton Fair, anxious silence. China's social media is boiling with comments. Exports are falling. Factories are running below full capacity. And on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, the message is, "We'll make it." They won't. This very standoff is the defining challenge of the new decade, not just economic, but ideological. Who will prevail? China, with its internal discipline, and manufacturing power, or the United States, with its global economic network and aggressive trade policy? Share your thoughts in the comments. We stand at the threshold of a new era, and each of us is a witness to it.